The broken girl in chains. The slave market was hot and loud. Aliens shouted prices. Creatures in cages cried for help. Metal fences rattled as the sun burned down from the orange sky. The crowd laughed when a new slave was pulled forward, weak, silent, and chained. She was small, her silver skin dirty, her white hair tangled like a broken net. Her arms were bruised, her eyes dull. Around her neck was a metal collar, tight and cruel. She didn't fight. She didn't beg. She just stood, still like she had already accepted her fate. This one? A traitor laughed. Too quiet, too weak. She's been sold 5 times, nobody keeps her. The crowd moved on. The girl looked down, expecting the same. No one would want her. No one ever did. But then, one man stepped forward. He was human, tall, quiet, wearing dusty clothes and a long brown coat. His boots were old. His face was tired. He didn't look rich. He didn't look strong. But he looked calm. The traitor smirked. "You want this one, human? She's no good." The man didn't speak. He looked at the girl, right in her eyes. She froze. No one had ever looked at her like that before. Not with hunger, not with anger, but with something soft, something warm. The man reached into his coat and pulled out one small coin. Just one. The traitor laughed again. "1 coin? That's not even enough for her collar." The man didn't care. He dropped the coin in the traitor's hand. Then he walked toward the girl. She didn't move. She didn't understand. He knelt in front of her and gently touched her chains. "Let me help," he said. The traitor shrugged and tossed him the key. "She's your problem now." The man unlocked the chains. One by one they fell to the ground. The collar too. She trembled, waiting for the next blow, the next command, but none came. He didn't grab her. He didn't shout. He just took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You're free now," he whispered. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Tears formed, but she quickly wiped them, away, ashamed. "Come," he said softly. "Let's go home." They walked through the crowded market. People stared, some laughed, some spat. One alien woman whispered, "Why would a human buy that?" The man didn't stop. The girl followed, still wearing the coat. It was too big. But it felt warm. Safer than anything she'd ever felt before. She didn't know where they were going. She didn't know his name. She didn't even know what home meant. But for the first time in her life, she hoped it might be real. They reached a small old house at the edge of the woods. It was quiet. A broken machine lay outside. Smoke rose from a chimney. A dog barked once and then ran away, wagging its tail. The man opened the door and stepped aside. "You can come in, or not. It's your choice." She stood there, unsure. He walked inside and left the door open. She waited. 1 minute. 2. Then, she stepped inside. The house was simple. Wooden floor, a table, 1 chair, a shelf with tools, a soft bed in the corner, and a fire. He pointed at the fire. "You can sit by it. You must be cold." She looked down at her bare feet. She was cold, but she didn't move. He walked into the kitchen and returned with bread and a cup of water. "Eat if you want. You don't have to." She took the bread slowly. Her hands shook. She sniffed it, then bit it like an animal. Her eyes widened. It was warm. It was soft. Tears came again. The man sat on the floor nearby and said nothing. He didn't watch her eat. He didn't ask questions. He just let her be. That night, she didn't sleep in the bed. She curled up by the wall, wrapped in his coat. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow made her breathe faster. But no one touched her. No one shouted. No one hurt her. She stayed awake until the sun rose. In the morning, the man was already outside, fixing something near the broken machine. She stood by the door and watched. The dog came back, sniffed her, then licked her hand. She didn't know what to do. But her lips twitched, almost a smile. The man looked up and saw her. "Morning," he said. She looked at him, then looked down. But her heart felt different. The next morning was quiet. The wind moved through the tall grass outside the house. A few strange alien birds sang in the trees. Inside, the girl sat by the window, holding the coat he gave her. It still smelled like warmth, like safety, like something she didn't know how to name. She hadn't spoken a word, not since he bought her, not even one. The man didn't force her. He just moved around the small house, fixing wires, checking fuel, cleaning tools. He worked like he had always done this alone. But now something had changed. Someone was watching him. The girl didn't enter the main room. She stood in corners, hid behind half-open doors. Her silver skin was cleaner now. He had left clean water and a towel, and she had quietly used it during the night. She wore a long shirt now, one that used to be his. It hung off her like a blanket. He didn't ask questions, not about her past, not about the brands burned into her skin, not about the scars on her back, but every now and then he would look at her, not with pity but with quiet respect. That afternoon he grabbed a toolbox and stepped outside. She watched from the doorway. He crouched by a large old machine, half ship, half rover, its parts rusted and wires exposed. He tapped on its side, then rolled under the chassis to begin work. She took one step out, then another. The sun hit her skin. She winced, but she stayed. She walked slowly around the machine and knelt near him, silently. Her glowing blue eyes watched every movement he made, the way he used his hands, his tools, the way he hummed softly while fixing things, the way he muttered, "Stupid wire again," and chuckled. It was strange. Kindness always came with a price. But this man didn't touch her, didn't look at her like a thing. She didn't understand it. The next day he handed her a small piece of fruit. "Try this," he said gently. She stared at it. Her fingers brushed his by accident. She flinched. He didn't move, didn't react. Just waited. She looked at the fruit, then at him. Then she took it. A bite. Her lips opened slightly in surprise. It was sweet. She nodded once. Very small, but it was a nod, and he smiled. Later that week it rained. Not soft rain, cold rain. She was outside collecting dry sticks when the wind hit her full in the face. She gasped, dropping the bundle, and ran for the porch. She was shaking. He opened the door. "Come in," he said quickly. "You'll freeze out there." She didn't move. Her past screamed in her ears. Don't trust. Don't enter. Don't believe. But his face didn't change. He wasn't angry. He wasn't shouting. He just held the door open. Finally, she stepped in. Her feet left small, wet marks on the floor. He grabbed a dry blanket and tossed it to her. "Use it," he said. She wrapped it around herself and sat by the fire. He didn't speak, but he made tea and left a cup near her. It smelled strange. She sniffed it, suspicious. Then, she drank. Warmth spread through her chest. It felt good. That night she had a dream. She saw the slave market, the chains, the pain. But in the dream, the man appeared, standing in front of her with a broken shield and a sword of light. He didn't run. He didn't fall. He faced the monsters. She woke up crying. She didn't know why. She hugged his coat tightly around herself and whispered into the darkness, "Please, don't leave." She didn't know if he heard her. But outside, the sound of tools stopped. Moment passed. Then she heard footsteps. The man didn't come in, but he sat down just outside her room and stayed there until morning. The next morning, something changed. She walked outside with him. No hiding. No fear. He looked at her, surprised. She didn't speak, but she pointed at the broken rover, then to the toolbox. He blinked. "You want to help?" She nodded. He handed her a small wrench. She took it. From that moment, they worked together, quietly, like they had always known how. She didn't say a word, but her hand spoke. She followed him into the fields, into the workshop, even into town, staying close behind, holding his coat, avoiding every stare. People asked him, "She doesn't talk?" He only said, "She doesn't have to. She listens." One evening, as the sky turned red, the girl stood outside the house watching the stars. The man came beside her. He asked, "You miss your home?" She didn't answer. He nodded, understanding. But just as he turned to leave, she whispered, "One word. Safe." He stopped, looked at her. "What?" She looked at him. Her voice was soft, broken, but real. "You. Safe," she said, touching her chest. "Here. Safe." He stared at her, shocked, then smiled. And for the first time, she smiled back. She trusted him now, but only a little. The girl still spoke only when she had to. A few words, quietly, softly. But her actions said more than her voice ever could. She followed him every day, into the forest, to the junkyard, to the fields. She carried tools. She cleaned parts. She even fixed a broken light panel once, surprising the man. "You used to work with machines?" he asked. She didn't answer, but she looked down, touched her wrist where old burns remained, and said, "Forced." The man didn't ask again. One morning the sun was low and the sky was golden. Steam rose from the wet grass. The man walked toward the river to wash his hands after hours of work. She followed, silent, carrying his towel. The river sparkled, wide and calm. He rolled up his sleeves and leaned over the bank. She stood back, until he gently asked, "Want to feel the water?" She looked unsure, then slowly stepped forward, removed her sandals and dipped her feet in. She gasped. It was cold, but it felt good. Then, her foot slipped. She stumbled forward, arms out, and landed in the shallow stream. Water splashed. Her shirt soaked through. She panicked. "No, no!" she cried, crawling backward. The man stepped in quickly and helped her up. "It's all right. You're okay." She was shaking, not from the cold, but from fear. He looked at her, his hand still holding hers. Then he saw it. Her shirt had slipped from her shoulder, and there it was. A dark red brand, burned deep into her back. An old scar shaped like a claw and a circle, twisted, cruel and glowing faintly beneath her wet skin. He froze. She noticed his stare. Her body stiffened. Her eyes widened. She tore away from him and fell back, breathing hard. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to cover the mark. "No, don't look, please. Don't send me back. Don't." He stepped back, not from fear, but from understanding. "I won't send you anywhere," he said, slowly raising his hands. "You're not a slave anymore." She trembled. "Do you know what that is?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Clan mark. Pain clan. Once marked, always hunted." She sat down, on a rock, hugging her knees, tears running down her face. They kill." The man looked out at the river, jaw tight. "You think they're still looking for you?" She nodded again. "Always." That night she didn't eat, didn't sleep. She sat near the fire, shaking every time the wind hit the walls. The man sharpened a blade. She watched him, afraid. "You angry?" He looked up. "Not at you." She didn't understand. "Then why?" "The blade," he answered. "Because if they come for you, I'll be ready." Her lips parted. "Why?" Not worth fight." He looked straight at her. "You're worth more than you know." The next day, the man went into town. He came back with a long cloak, thick and dark, made from strong fiber. He handed it to her. "Wear this when you go outside, it'll cover the mark." She took it with shaking hands, and then something happened. She reached out and touched his arm. "Thank you," she said. Not in fear, but in her own voice, full and real. That night, they sat under the stars. She looked at him and whispered, "I dreamed I was burning. Chains, fire, screams. But then, I heard a voice." "What did the voice say?" She closed her eyes. It said, "You're not theirs anymore." He didn't answer right away, then said, "Maybe that voice was mine." She smiled a little and leaned against his shoulder. The next morning, they found footprints. Big ones. Not his, not hers. Alien boots near the edge of the trees. He crouched, touched the dirt, and stood slowly. His eyes narrowed. "They're close," he said. The girl looked at him, fear rising again. "Clan?" He didn't answer. Instead, he loaded his old rifle and said, "We'll find out soon enough." The air changed. It was a quiet morning, but not the normal kind of quiet. It was the kind that made animals hide, birds go silent, and even the wind hold its breath. The human man stood at the edge of the forest, his hand resting on the old rifle strapped to his back. The girl stood behind him, wrapped in the dark cloak he gave her. She could feel it too. Something was coming. He followed the strange footprints through the trees. Not fresh, but not old either. Maybe one day old. Heavy boots, military pattern, not local, not friendly. They stopped near the waterline. There, in the dirt, was something worse. A small, flat disc, black metal, blinking softly with red light. She stepped forward and froze. Her face went pale. "Tracker," she whispered. "Clan uses it to find lost slaves." The man crushed the disc under his boot. Sparks flew. His voice was low and cold. "They know you're here?" She stared at him. "They never forget a mark." By evening, the sky had darkened. Not just with night, but with smoke. A ship was coming. Not large. Fast. Low-flying. He stepped out of the house and looked up. Not good. The girl stood in the doorway, gripping the edge of the wall. "It's him," she said quietly. "The master." Her voice shook. I remember his face, his breath. He said I'd never escape. He enjoyed pain. The human looked at her. "Do you want to run?" She looked at him, eyes wide. And then she did something she had never done before. She reached out and held his hand. "No," she said. "I want to stay." He nodded. Then he handed her a knife. "Then we fight." The ship landed in the clearing. It hissed and opened like a beast. 6 armored aliens stepped out, tall, sharp-jawed, wearing the red and black colors of the slave clans. At their center walked a taller one with long silver robes and a staff, tipped with bone, her former master. His voice echoed through the woods. "Return what is mine, human. We marked her. We paid. She belongs to us." The man stepped forward slowly. "She's not a thing," he said. "She's free." The master laughed. "Humans. So soft, so stupid, always trying to protect what's broken." The girl stepped out from behind the trees. She wasn't hiding anymore. She stood tall. Her cloak fell from her shoulders, revealing the mark on her back. "I am not broken," she said. Her master growled. "You dare speak to me like—" Bang! A shot rang out. One of the guards dropped to the ground. The man didn't wait. He fired again, moved behind a tree, reloaded, fast, sharp, cold. They returned fire, bolts flying, sparks hitting the trees. But he was already gone. The girl picked up her knife and ran. She moved through the brush like a shadow. She remembered how they used to train her. Silent steps, quick cuts, no sound. Now she would use it against them. She leapt from the trees and slashed one across the leg. The alien screamed. She ducked, rolled. The man shot again. Together, they fought like they had done this before. One guard fell, then another. Only the master remained. He raised his staff, sending a shockwave through the field. The girl fell back, stunned. The man charged him, but the master was fast. Too fast. He knocked the rifle from his hands and sent him crashing to the ground. The master raised his blade. "You can't protect her," he growled. "She is ours." Then came a voice, soft, but full of rage. "Not anymore." The girl lunged from behind, her knife shining in the moonlight, straight into the master's back. He screamed, fell. Silence followed. The wind moved again. The birds sang. And the girl dropped. The knife breathing hard, the man stood up, holding his side. "Blood, you okay?" he asked, smiling weakly. She nodded, then knelt beside him. You stayed," she whispered. He touched her face gently. "So did you." They looked at the burning ship, then at each other. No more chains, no more collars, no more fear. That night they sat beside the fire, both bruised and silent. The girl broke the silence first. "I was his property," she said, "but when I looked at you, I felt something different." He didn't speak. She touched his hand. "I want to be yours, not as a slave, but as a woman, as your wife." The fire cracked softly. He looked into her eyes and whispered, "Then stay, forever." And she did. The next morning the sky was quiet, too quiet. Ash still floated in the wind from the wreckage of the slave ship. Smoke curled from the trees, and the soil was stained with the battle's memory. But inside the small home by the woods, something peaceful had begun. She stood at the door, watching the horizon, wrapped in his brown coat again. Her chains were gone. Her master was dead. But freedom still felt like a dream she was afraid to believe. The man stepped beside her, wincing from his wounds. His shirt was torn and blood dried at his side, but his grip on the old rifle never loosened. "You should rest," she whispered. He looked at her, then at the forest. "They'll come back. His death won't be the end." She nodded. Her voice was calm, but her heart beat hard. "Then I will fight, not to run, but to protect this place." They spent the day preparing. The man showed her how to reload energy cells, how to wire alarms in the trees, how to hide traps beneath fallen leaves. She learned fast, faster than he expected. She was not just a survivor. She was becoming a defender. By sunset, a small wall of scrap and stone circled the home. A signal jammer glowed behind the house. A pulse cannon sat hidden in the grass, blinking. They stood on the roof that night watching the stars. She leaned against him. "When I was a slave," she said, "I thought pain was the only thing I'd ever know, but now I feel something else." "What?" She looked up. "Hope." But hope was tested sooner than they expected. At midnight, the sky lit up again. Second ship, larger, faster, it didn't land, it fired. Explosions rocked the ground. The trap alarms screamed. Trees burst into flame, the front fence shattered like glass. They were under attack. The man handed her a blaster and said one word. "Run!" She refused. "I won't leave you. Please, I left once before." "I won't do it again." Their eyes locked. Then he nodded. "Then stay with me. We fight together." From the woods, mercenaries poured in. Heavily armed, armored, cold-eyed, bounty hunters, hired to finish what the slavers could not. The girl moved like shadow, her cloak hiding her body, her knife sharp and silent. She slipped through trees, cut power lines, dropped smoke bombs. Her fear was gone. She wasn't running anymore. She was protecting her home. The man fired from the rooftop, picking them off one by one. He shouted, "2 by the fire pit." She answered, 3 behind the wreck. Blasts lit the night, screams echoed, and still, they fought, together. But they were just 2, and the enemy was many. Eventually, the man was hit, a shot to the shoulder. He dropped to one knee, bleeding. Panting, she saw it. She screamed. And then, she charged. She ran straight into the fire. straight into the mercenaries. She didn't care if she died. She only cared about one thing, him. They tried to stop her. Too late. She stabbed one in the throat, shot the second. The third tried to grab her. She bit down hard on his hand and kicked him into the flames. Then she reached him. He was down, his rifle empty, his breathing heavy. She knelt beside him, tears mixing with ash. "Don't close your eyes," she begged. "Not now." He coughed. "Tired?" "No, not yet. Please stay." Her voice broke. "I never asked you before, but now I will." She leaned close. "Stay with me, not just tonight, but forever. As my husband." He looked at her, and despite the blood, despite the pain, he smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." Together they stood again, burning, bleeding, but alive. They pressed one last button on the cannon, the final trap. A roar of light exploded across the field. The mercenaries fell back, dead or running. Silence returned. Dawn came slowly. Smoke faded. Ash settled. They sat side by side in the grass, his head on her shoulder now. She kissed his forehead gently. "You gave me a life," she said. He chuckled weakly. "And you saved mine," she whispered. "We saved each other." The war was over, but the silence that followed was louder than gunfire. Birds returned to the sky. The grass grew back where fire had burned. The wind no longer smelled like smoke, but of clean air and wildflowers. Peace had returned, and in the middle of it all, the human man and the once chained alien girl stood together, no longer hiding, no longer running. Their hands were scarred, their bodies bruised, but they smiled, because they were finally free, truly free. The house had to be rebuilt. The roof was half gone. The walls were burned black. The front gate lay in pieces, but the girl didn't cry. She picked up a hammer and began fixing it, one nail at a time, one brick at a time. She worked beside him, side by side, just like they fought. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. When he limped, she helped him walk. When her hand shook, he held it steady. When they were tired, they leaned on each other, and when the house was ready again, she stood at the door, smiled, and whispered, "Home." Later that week, she found the old brown coat he had once given her. It was torn, stained, nearly useless. Still, she folded it gently and placed it on the bed. "This saved me," she said softly. He replied, "So did you." One night, under a quiet sky full of stars, they sat near the fire pit. She wore a new dress, made from scrap fabric she stitched herself. He had shaved, cleaned up, and wore the only good shirt left. The stars reflected in her silver eyes. He took her hands gently. "You still want to marry me?" he asked. She looked into his eyes and said, "I already did, the day you gave me a name." The next morning they marked their marriage with simple words. No priest, no papers, just truth. He said, "I choose you, not as someone to save, but someone to walk beside." She said, "I give you my heart not as a gift, but as a promise." Then they sat in silence and held each other. That night, a knock came at the door. The man opened it, wary. Two alien women stood outside, tired, bruised, one holding a small child. They had no weapons, only fear. "Please," one of them said. "We heard there is safety here." The girl stepped forward. She recognized the brand on the woman's arm. It was the same one she once had. She didn't speak. She opened the door wide and nodded. "Come in." Over the next few weeks, more came. A wounded alien soldier, a runaway half-human girl, an old alien male who carried only seeds and silence. They didn't come for help. They came for hope. And each time, she welcomed them. The house became more than a home. It became a village. Tents were built, gardens planted, old machines brought back to life. Children laughed, played, ran free. The girl, once sold for a single coin, now stood at the center of it all. She taught others to stitch, to farm, to defend themselves, and to trust again. One evening, she walked to the edge of the field. The wind played with her hair. The man joined her, resting his arm around her shoulder. "You built all this," he said. She smiled. "No," she replied. "We did." That night, as the stars shone bright above their land, she sat with a child in her lap, telling stories. "Once," she said, "there was a girl with chains on her hands and no voice in her heart." The child asked, "What happened to her?" She smiled. She met someone who didn't try to fix her. He just stayed. And then, she became something new. Not because he saved her, but because he believed she could be more. The Korean fire crackled, laughter echoed. The girl, now a woman, now a wife, now a leader, looked around her village. And for the first time in her life, she felt complete. Years passed, but her story never faded. The alien girl who once stood in chains at a slave market was now known across the stars by another name, the Silent Flame, a name whispered with respect, a name carried by the wind to those still. In darkness, her village had grown, not just a few tents or homes anymore, but a full settlement. Gardens bloomed. Children of all kinds, human, alien, mixed, ran laughing through the streets. Machines buzzed softly, rebuilt from old wreckage. Lights powered by sun and wind danced at night. And at the heart of it all, she stood. No crown on her head, no throne beneath her. Just a woman in simple clothes, sleeves rolled up, hands stained with earth and oil. But to everyone who came, she was their queen. A delegation once arrived, dressed in polished armor sent by a galactic council. Their leader stepped forward and said, "You have no flag, no name, no weapons. And yet, no slaver dares step near this place." "How?" She looked them in the eyes and replied, "Because we protect each other." She had no army, but hundreds would rise if she asked. She had no warships, but her people would walk through fire for her. Why? Because she gave them what no empire did, a second chance. Her husband, older now, his hair gray at the sides, still walked beside her. His limp was worse in winter, but he never complained. He taught the children how to fix old machines. She taught them how to fix their hearts. Together they made the broken whole again. One day a small girl asked her, "Is it true you were once a slave?" The question didn't sting anymore. She knelt and took the girl's hands. "Yes," she said, "but being a slave didn't break me." The girl frowned. "But you were hurt." "Yes," she nodded. "But I didn't stay there," the girl whispered. "How did you escape?" She smiled. "I didn't escape. Someone opened the door. I chose to walk out." That evening, as stars lit the sky, she sat with her husband under the same tree where it all began. "Do you remember," she said, "when you bought me for 1 coin? He laughed gently. "Best trade I ever made." She leaned her head on his shoulder, "And you never asked for anything. I only hoped," he said, "that you'd stay." She closed her eyes. "I did more than stay. I became." Later that night, a gathering was held. The people called her forward. An alien elder stepped ahead, holding something wrapped in cloth. When he opened it, it was a silver circlet, simple but beautiful, made from melted slave collars and old chains. "She gasped. He spoke. "You once wore chains as a slave. Now wear this, not to rule, but as proof that you rose above them." Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't want power. But they didn't offer her power. They offered her honor. She took the circlet in her hands and raised it high. The people cheered, not because she won a war, but because she healed a world. Not because she destroyed enemies, but because she taught others to protect the weak. In her final message, sent years later to the stars, she said, "If you are afraid, if you feel worthless, if your voice was stolen, come. We have space for you. We don't care where you came from, only who you choose to become." And so they came. Runaways, outcasts, forgotten ones, not to serve a queen, but to become free. Like she once did, the girl in chains was gone. In her place stood a queen of kindness, forged not by fire, but by love. And her legacy would never be forgotten.